Gaming and BS episode 308 being recorded Monday, August 31st, 2020. Welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad people are around. How you doing, man?
Good, Brett. How are you doing, man? Sounds like Brett's in pain this evening, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunately becoming normal. So, like I said, doctor's appointment on the 9th. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get something figured out. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
Did you get any gaming in since we talked last?
I did. Well, I played in the charity event.
Okay, so first things first, how the heck was that?
It was good. It was fun. It was good.
Good.
Definitely. It was fun. And I give props to Jason Hobbs of Hobbs and Friends for running the game and putting in all the prep. We did not finish kind of the mission, so to speak. I was a liaison en route to... I was on a diplomatic mission and being escorted by Kevin Madison's character, as well as... So he and I were same ethnicity.
Okay.
And the other three were not. Other three players were not. And
Cool.
One was not a big fan of our ethnicity, I guess. There's a faction kind of thing going on.
Okay.
So.
Got it.
But
did
it was
anyone
good.
grab your character by the throat and say, if this is a diplomatic envoy, where is the ambassador? Did anyone do that?
No.
Somebody should have.
Missed opportunity.
Somebody should have evaded you, man.
So I think going into the event, Kevin, for the SOS for Children charity, had already had his goal met, and I think we raised a few more dollars. I think some BSers might have stopped by, and for those that did, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. It was Low Fantasy Gaming. Steve Grodzicki from Pickpocket Press as a player. Didn't lay down the hammer on Hobbs, so Hobbs must have known what he was talking about.
Or at least he just didn't want to embarrass Hobbs in front of God and everybody.
Steve's a good guy.
Nice. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, and yeah. So that was that. I did Delta Green. I tried to run that on Thursday, and I say tried because we got into about an hour, and then a storm hit us locally, and my power went off, and then it came back on.
Then it went off.
And then it went off, and then it went on, and then it went off, and then on. Like literally just like that in a 10-minute span. First it went off, and then everything came on, and I thought we were in the clear, and then it flickered on and off, and all I'm an old computer guy, and so hardware guy. And so when we'd get storms, I used to unplug all my stuff. Like,
I have indeed done that.
Yeah.
My house has been hit by lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
not cool.
No, it is not. When it fries shit, it's not good, not fun.
So we had everything up and running, and the guys were like, it's 9:00. Let's call it. Yeah. And so
that's the only, I shouldn't say the only, but one of the big online issues that'll hit you is if you have a technical issue that you can't control. Like, the other day I was running for my guys, and I had a similar thing where the internet was just not acting right at all. And it was just like, finally, I had to turn my camera off. It was working fine after that, just for whatever reason, bandwidth issues. It's a drag, because it never happens when you're at the start or at the end of it's always like in the middle of something cool. That's when that shit hits you. Yeah,
it was pretty ridiculous. And so Hobbs and Harrigan and us, we just kind of hung loose, and that was kind of it. So
that happens.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to join you on Saturday because I was, up north. Went up, visited my friends who I hadn't seen in a while. We had a chance to do a little in-person gaming, so it was kind of fun. Everybody's been hale and healthy and whatnot, so very small crew of us got together. My buddy Alpha cracked out his Rage of the Rage of Demons, which we hadn't played in months and months and months. It got back. Where the hell are we? Oh, yeah, Brett's got a new character. How are we going to do? We fought a Beholder. I was paralyzed twice, turned to stone at the end. Survived. It was very, very touch and go for the party. We got our asses handed to us, but eventually came out on top. It was very, very, very touch and go. It was fun. Nick ran D20 Star Wars on Saturday, and then by the time I got home Sunday, I was a massive pain. I pushed myself too hard. It was stupid of me. I shouldn't have done that. But in addition to that, I ran Middle-earth for my kids, AJ and Lana, last Wednesday, and that went over really well. We had a good time. They're planning out where they're going next. They've been complaining that they just didn't seem to have enough. They needed a warrior boy. They should have made another character. I said, remember the keep you guys took over with the 6 dwarves that live there and have offered to help you? Oh, yeah. You want an NPC follower or somebody? Oh, yeah, that'd be great. So they got a warrior with them. Big, tough, equal level dwarf type of thing. So they're feeling pretty good there. They got poisoned at the end, trying to figure out who did what. So a bit of a mystery. It's a little bit of fun for them. So no one lost an eye. No combat this time, but it was still fun as they tried to figure out what was going on and who was to blame and all that good stuff. So it was fun. Good session.
Well, that's good, man, I guess.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty good. Other than that, let's see here. Announcement-wise, we had Virtual GameholeCon coming. We've talked about that plenty. GameholeCon.com if you're interested. Let's see here. And again, Sean, I'm still really proud, man. You did that charity thing. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
That's just cool that when you get an opportunity to do that, if you can make it work, that's really cool that you did that.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody I was fortunate to be invited. It was a game that somebody had paid for, and that was their game, and then Hobbs asked me to be a part of it. And so, of course, I was quite flattered by being a part of it. So, yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed myself, and so...
Cool, man. Let's do Random Encounter, man. Let's just roll over there.
Oh, update. I'll probably run Curse of Strahd for Jeff's gang.
Yeah?
The gang of Jeff, yeah.
The mothership crashed?
Well, I think I've got one session. And then it'll be
just
done.
Get done with it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a nice experiment while it lasted.
Yeah.
And moving on.
Yeah. All right. Random Encounter, a segment of the show where we field voicemails, comments from social media, and the emails. First one, Harrigan emailed us. You want to start, or
no? You need to do it. You need to get back in the groove, man. You're feeling it. You're thrown off. Read some good email here. You'll pump you right back up.
All right. Okay, I can do this.
Get up, you son of a bitch, and bring your Nobel.
Harrigan emails us, Gaming NBS Overlords. 2 quick things. On Sean's flaming train wreck of a session 0 for his mothership game.
We need a train wreck sound now. We have a train sound, but we need a crashing train. Do you have a train crash?
I don't have the crashing end of the train, but I'm sure it's something I can work on. Yeah,
we got to have that. Yeah, that's important. Carry on.
So on one hand, you have Kingdom, Microscope, and the like, highly structured, highly collaborative setting builders that it seems his group dislikes. So during our Delta Green game, when it was done, Harrigan and Hobbs and I were talking, and the episode didn't drop yet, and I was telling Harrigan about my mothership, Microscope, Kingdom
debacle
experiment. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is what he's referencing, everybody. So on the other, there's completely free-form setting generation where no one can agree. Key elements are forgotten about, and the GM can end up running a setting they don't actually enjoy. So that's the hang-up if I did run Kingdom and it was successful. Or we did it. Maybe successful isn't the right word. Idea. Head for the middle ground. Fate and Powered by the Apocalypse games often do this. Provide a bit of structure for setting building, but don't go overboard. Come up with the key points that matter, then provide the players with a few choices for each of them. It can be really tough to come up with ideas in a vacuum and even harder to get everyone to agree on them. So have the players choose from a few GM-provided options. Give them a menu to order off of. They could each have a vote, or you can even make it a little set of tables they roll on randomly. For a science fiction game, set up the choices around FTL communications, FTL travel, aliens, whether artificial gravity is a thing, weapon technology, the kind of ship they have, the kinds of adventures they get up to, all the stuff that matters for the setting and the stories people want to tell. And by building these lists, the GM can ensure that they either A, stay within their comfort zone and run a setting they like, or B, get to stretch themselves in ways they are new and inspiring. Basically this, make random setting tables and have your players roll on or pick from them. So, number 2. So, COVID-19 sure has driven a lot of gamers online, me included. I'd be curious to see what BSers think now about going virtually. Do those who hated it still hate it? Are those who dove in starting to get tired of the format? Might be a neat subtopic, kind of looking at the state of online gaming now that we are about 6 months into this thing. That's all I got. Peace. Harrigan.
Interesting. On the online piece, I was not as big a fan as I am now. I've gotten more and more used to it. I've actually found that for running for my home group, we get more done online than we do in person. When we're in person, the side talk, the bullshit, the hey, let me show you this cool new knife I bought, which is the thing at the table. Hey, let me show you this thing. Oh my God, I saw this movie. Hey, did you see? That is a big distraction for in-person gaming for us. Especially this last weekend, we have not seen each other in months. So getting together again was a huge, oh my God, this is really cool. Yeah, I know that happens sometimes online. Or for a podcast like Brett and Sean, where we just ramble for hours. But that's from an staying on target perspective. For whatever reason, my home group, if it's online, we are on task, on target, and by God, we get a shitload more done in just a couple hours than we normally do in person. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we don't. The Jeff group that I play in tend to take intermissions, whether it's. Usually they're informal. Somebody gets away from the table. We got to wait for them. Then everybody breaks up. We talk about the current state of affairs and then eventually get back to the table.
And some of that's normal, right? We're friends. You've known those guys for a long time. I've known my group for a very long time. It's hard to not talk about other stuff because they are my friends. They're not just people I game with.
Right.
They're not my gaming friends and then my quote-unquote regular other group of friends. These are my friends. Sean and I don't just do a podcast and game together. We talk about all sorts of crap together because we're friends. It's just how that works. I like the ideas that he talked about, though, above that with the idea, and I think we touched on that a bit last episode when you talked about it, Sean, is kind of the give them a menu. We're going to talk about that a bit more in today's topic, kind of the lower end descriptions component of it. So I don't want to get too deep into that right now here again because we're going to get to that in a bit. So I think enough said on that for now, huh? You good, Sean?
I am good. Thanks for writing in, Harrigan. He put that in at the last minute. Literally at the buzzer, he messaged me on Discord, and I'm like, okay, no problem.
Nice.
So, yeah. Glad he let me know, because I probably would have missed it.
Would have missed it. Yeah.
This week, anyway.
So next up, we got Roman emails us on why do PCs wander off. Hey, dudes, I know this email's a little behind. Sorry about that. I got behind to listen out of order. Oh, God. Roman. Nah, it's cool, dude. That's totally fine. Thanks for taking the survey so I didn't have to. I really enjoyed your discussions on wandering PCs so much that I wanted to share my thoughts with you jokers. I think when the entire party wanders away during a published adventure, it's often just bad writing. It's really up to the GM to keep the players engaged in the story enough to want to stick around. Rumors of powerful magical items can only be gained by following the prescribed path can be hard to walk away from. Conversely, when PCs wander away during a homebrew game, it just might be because of the homebrew. Published adventures provide a wonderful linear quality that sure might feel a little railroady sometimes, but at least you know what the hell you're supposed to be doing. Unless you're playing Rage of Demons. That one feels weird to me. Total Brett sidebar. Some of the greatest campaigns our group has played have been a mashup of several different published adventure paths, modules, one-shots, and homebrew adventures set in a homebrew world. The world was always fresh and new, but there were almost always specific goals that we understood. If the players don't understand what the hell they're supposed to do, There ain't no way the characters are gonna, and the people will get bored and look for something to fight. Lastly, the thing really irritating kind of wandering off. PCs wandering off alone. I get it. It's a role-playing game. People want to roleplay their character. What's my motivation? Wah. I'm just playing my character. Wah. But I want to do that. Wah. I like the added wah. What some people forget is that this is, and I overscrolled, this is a social game played with other people. Sometimes you need to invent motivation, change your character's motivations, or just shut the fuck up and go along to get along until you're totally into it again. Nobody wants to sit and watch you play by yourself with a GM for 20 or 30 minutes while you run off to find yourself. A group typically makes decisions on a vote and we all go along. We once had a player who was so upset by another character's actions that he announced he was going to fly home and burn down the party castle. Whoa, time out. When shit like this happens, it's time to take a break from the session and have a serious talk. That player eventually decided to leave the group and the character went off to live in the forest. This is what I imagine happened with Han Solo. His player had to take a leave of absence. His wife had a baby. He sadly moved away. So Han decided to fly off to the sunset instead of joining the rebellion. A couple years later, holy shit, I'm moving back to town. Is there room in the group for me? Hell yes, there's room. We're about to start another sci-fi adventure with our old characters. This time it's supposed to be in the forest with a bunch of teddy bear NPCs. I'm weird. Game on. I like that, Roman. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Roman.
It is a social game. And it's not, we've talked about this many times over the years, and it's difficult sometimes for people to understand that it's not always about them. And that sometimes, wow, this session doesn't have a lot for my character to do, or this session isn't enough about the things I like. Well, guess what? There might be 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 other people at the table. So, yeah, I agree. Sometimes you just gotta go with the flow. You're not always gonna get what you want. And doesn't mean you should go around and break the game or try to be disruptive by just, quote unquote, playing your character and wandering off just to do that type of thing. So I get it. Yeah. Over to you, Sean.
All right. So Isaiah commented on Brett taking the D&D survey. Hey, all, first-time poster. Started listening to the show last year, and the way the hosts highlight the community is affirming and welcoming. The kind of openness and genuine interest that Sean and Brett display are the features of the gaming community that keep me enthusiastic about the hobby. Props to everyone on here for being a positive force. So
thanks, man.
Referring to the forums, yeah. I started playing RPGs in middle school because I always wished I could do more in the video games I played. When my friend across the street showed me his AD&D books, my mind was blown. I was no longer confined to what was on an NES cartridge. I think wanting to DM was an extension of that. Now I would only be limited by what I could create and what others would play. Thinking about the survey and something that came up on the episode, I hope WotC is planning to expand into virtual tabletop. I would pay good money for an online platform to run 4th edition D&D. The tight design of the combat was a wonderful way for me to experience that video game type experience that attracted me as a kid. Maybe if enough people answer positively about 4E on that survey, I can play it more.
I have heard a lot of different folks that are friends of mine that really like 4th edition. You know, I only, as I've said, only had a chance to play it once. And my short answer is always, it wasn't for me. I think the long answer is much more tedious and boring, has more to do with the group dynamics and other components versus the actual rule set itself. And I believe the original ideas for 4th edition was kind of this codified virtual tabletop type of experience as well. I don't know. I mean, I hear rumors about what is all planned or dreamed around 4th edition, but it never came to fruition. So, yeah, I could definitely see having a really cool online platform with version dedication to it could be kind of fun. Yeah. I think the closest you could get is stuff like, you know, Roll20 or whatever that have certain features, you know, for 5e or whatever it is built into it, but it's still not quite the same.
Yeah.
So I get what he's saying.
For sure.
Good stuff. But hey, thanks for listening, and thanks for taking the time to comment, Isaiah. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for just being a part of the community, Isaiah. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So Dominicanian, I think I did that right, posted this in our forums. Not sure if this is the right place, but can y'all do an episode on how to GM for money? How to get that paper? How much to charge? What to expect? and want to how to run a game on the fly. You sit down as a player, and the group makes you GM. You have to use your player keys to run the game. Interesting. I think, Sean, you and I have talked about the whole DM for cash thing, maybe offhandedly. We've never really focused on it. But yes, we can. And it will go into the Hoppa. I will add those to topic lists.
Yeah, that'd be interesting one to talk about because there's some people that are just, no, you
don't do that.
You don't do that.
Other people are like, why wouldn't you do that?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about that and on the fly. We've talked about that in bits and pieces, but a little more, how would I do it? How would Sean do it? I think might be a little more handy than some of the higher conceptual type of stuff. Talk a little more tactical. Could be fun. So yeah, I'll add those in there. That's up next, man.
Sweet.
What you got?
Let's see. Oh, so, well, why don't we go into the main topic?
Sure. Then you can hit some of the stuff you asked.
Yeah, these are responses for the main topic that I found online.
Very cool. Let's go for it,
So
man.
thanks everybody for writing in and emailing and commenting on the forums. We appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. All right, let's get into the main topic. All right, Brett.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Roger Braslett, longtime friend, listener of the show, supporter, all-around good dude. He wrote in our forums and said, description on demand, I'm not always comfortable, especially in a new game when the GM gives me the talking stick and asks me to make something up on the spot about their game world. I didn't know this was a thing, and other people don't like it either. Also, I know Brett does this, which is very true. As an aside, I have done that in the past. There's an article, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. So we've got this great article to the Alexandrian, thealexandrian, all one word, .net. We'll have a link in the show notes. It's on this author's list of GM don'ts, description on demand. So I told Sean, I said, I thought the article was actually pretty interesting. I don't know if I agree with all the bits and pieces of it. But if nothing else, Roger's perspective is something we have talked about here and there. And I think let's just have a little more focus on it. So it actually got me thinking back, Sean, to your mothership idea and the kingdom and microscope components. And is that a task? It sounds like your group isn't comfortable doing that. That may not be that type of creativity, because gaming itself is a very creative act as players, whatever. It's kind of, I almost liken it to, hey, I work in oils and someone gives me a slab of marble and a chisel. Not a sculptor, right? If that's not your chosen format, it might be tough. But Sean, I know before we go too far into this, you went out to the social medias and asked some people some questions. So did you want to go through those answers now?
Yeah. So did we want to talk about what we're talking about when it has to do with?
Yeah, let's do that.
So Brett said, hey, we're going to talk about this.
Define the goddamn thing.
Well, Brett said, hey, this is what we're talking about. Here's a link to an article that references. And I started reading the article. And the thing that, so it's about description on demand. I will let Brett talk about that. But the article and the blog that we reference with the link says, I think there's some people that like it, but I know that there's some people that don't. Many people don't. And that was like, really? Is that true? Many people?
Yeah, when you take big swaths of something,
right?
And you say, clearly, or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm sure the blog, and I like the blog. We've talked about the Alexandria and referenced it in previous shows, is good, but I'm sure that there isn't like a very overly extending survey to get that feedback. So Brett, if you could divulge what description on demand actually is.
Yep, I'm going to pull this directly off. So I'm going to quote off the article, which again, I think the person did a good job. They started off with this. So the technique we're talking about, direct quote here, is description on demand. The GM directs an authorial question at a player, giving them narrative control to define, describe, or determine something beyond the immediate control of their character. Examples include stuff like, what is Lord Fauntleroy's deepest secret? You open a door and see Madame de Ferber's bedroom. What does it look like? Okay, so you pull him off to one side, confess your love to him, and demand to know if he feels the same way. What does he say? What does Rebecca, your PC, know about the Dachshund Gang? Who's their leader? Robert, tell me the name of what the name of the mountain is. Okay, you find some juicy blackmail on Mayor McDonald. What is it he's done? What evidence do you find? If you haven't encountered this technique before, the key to understanding is that none of the characters being defined here are PCs. The GM isn't asking Lord Fauntleroy's player what the character's deepest secrets are. They're asking the players to step out of their character and create an element of the game world external to the character, often in direct response to the character taking interest in that element of the game world. It's description on demand because the GM is demanding that the player provide description. Now, the demand part, that phrase, demand, makes it feel like, you motherfucker, I told you, give me this, right? You feel demand is being demanding. You have to. You feel obligated to. I think if it's done in a better way, I would be sourcing the table, asking people for information. Hey, could you give me some? I think as we go through this, I think some of the things for descriptions on demand, if we stick with that type of phrase or sourcing the table, there's certain types of questions that I generally don't ask. Or I have tried and found I don't get good reactions, and so I have a style/type of thing I look for, and some of it is just to feel out the group to see who at the table likes this shit and who doesn't like that stuff much, type of thing. So, Sean, I think that's a good enough description to get us going here. So, if you want to look at some of the feedback, hit us with it.
Oh,
I'm gonna groan in the background.
Yeah, thank you for circling back. So when I heard this and read that part, and it was like, I know, there's not many people that like it. So I posted it on Twitter. If you follow us, weigh in on Twitter on your thoughts. Yes, I love it. Sometimes if it's used sparingly, or no, I don't like it at all. So one of the individuals mentioned, depends on the style of game. This was Gaz, the Smart Party RPG. I should have probably grabbed their handle. I think it's actually, the Smart Party RPG podcast. Depends on the style of game. For the more traditional games, D&D, I get a bit worn down as a player by doing the GM's heavy lifting. In some other games, say Blades in the Dark, it's all about injecting my own details into that world. Now, this guy named Joe, I don't mind when players are asked to help define the environment pre-play, and this could be pre-session or pre-campaign. During play, I think it's important for the GM to create the mood/setting. Joe's opinion does not matter, because Joe I've known for 35 years, and he's in my game group. So, Joe, I don't
Go
really
to hell,
care.
Joe. Go to hell, Joe.
I really don't care what you have to say, Joe.
I, Joe, on the other hand, I welcome you to my table, and I can show you how it's done. So if you ever need to, I can.
There you go, Joe.
I can make that work for you.
So the next session that we have, I'm just gonna pose all the questions to Joe as we go through in session 1, 2, 3, 4.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. He's gonna be. Joe doesn't know it yet, but he will be dungeon mastering
the
via
first
proxy.
3 sessions. Oh,
Yes.
via proxy.
Yeah.
Very nice.
He won't even know. Yeah. And then Orchidus, Hail Orcus Dorcas. To me, this is something that is more idiosyncratic of a game mechanic, more so than a generalized style of running a game. This really doesn't really have universal quality that can be applied to most games as compared to utilizing theater of the mind versus props and maps and so on. So, in other words, those latter things, my interpretation of what he said was those latter things you can they're easier to grok and throw in and out of a game, no matter what the game system is, where description by on demand is not as much a universal quality, which I could probably see that a little bit.
Yeah, I think. Any more?
No, those were just the 3 that I snagged.
3 snagged off top.
The ones that I snagged offline.
I think one of the pieces we're talking about here, and that last comment leads into this. And one of the things from the article that he talks about is he says many players don't like it. It tends to be a fad that periodically cycles through RPG, meme sphere, blah, blah, blah. He talks about the difference between role-playing games and storytelling games. That's a different description to get into. But I think we're talking about here, and I like what the... let me double check. The Orcus Dorcas, Hail Orcus Dorcas, threw out there was And I think, and even, let me get back here. It's, and Gaz brought it up as well, the Smart Party RPG. When you think about this, it comes down to those comments remind me of, does the game, rules as written, require/support this? Right.
Sure.
So Blades in the Dark, it's part of it. Fate, as Harrigan talked about earlier when you were chatting in the first bit of feedback we had. Does that play into Fate? End of Dresden Files has that type of stuff in it. You build the city together. It's part of Session 0. And even during gameplay, that can be important. What are the Powered by Apocalypse games? Can do that sometimes. Like, hey, add in. Some people have called them, I know Chris Sneezak and I had chatted about this offline one time, and he had referred to them kind of as writer's table games, which I thought was kind of a cool type of phrasing. So I think if it's in the game, right, and people sit down and say, oh, this is Blades in the Dark, this is Fate, this is...
When you say it's in the game, you mean as a mechanic. It is a part of the game.
It is a natural part of the game, and that is how the author, designer, writer crafted that, right? So you could look at that and say, oh, so Roger or other people are like not fond of that would say, oh, guess I don't want to play Fate. Because if it's a natural part of the game, and I'm expected to do that in order to take full advantage of game mechanics, or to be an effective player, an effective game master, effective part of the entire game experience at this table, I need to do that, because that's the way the game works. Yeah, I could see people saying, that's not my game. Not for me. On the other hand, what happens, and this is perhaps even another topic, Sean, we're topic building here left and right, but the game master advice type of things that go around, and you and I have talked about this a lot, we often refer to it as sourcing the table, asking people for stuff. When someone says, I want to get in a bar fight, is there a wine bottle on the table? Versus, I grab the wine bottle off the table. Those types of things can be considered description on demand. But we're talking about here very specifically, a very specific piece of it is when I look across my DM screen, my Game Master screen, my Storyteller screen, whatever it is, I go, Roger, what's the name of the baker on the corner of 5th and Main? And he goes, Robert? Okay, Robert. Short guy, heavy guy, fun. What do you like about Robert? And he's like, dude, right? That person, and Roger, you're not here, so I'm just using you as an example, man, so don't take it personally.
Whoever you may be, Roger. Roger. So
if Roger's like, yeah, this is not fun. Whatever. This isn't my shtick. I don't like doing this. Other players, in my home group, I've gamed with these guys for 20 plus years, so I go, Lenny, I need the name of the baker. Whip, give me. Personality? Thank you. Done. Other folks in my group don't give two shits about that. JR, not his bag. Not going to tell me.
I would welcome that. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because if Brett asked me who the baker would be, I'd call him like Finger Nibblebits or something.
Yeah, that's another reason not to ask certain people questions. You smart ass. No.
Frick. All right, there's a old night watchman. He's walking down the street. What's his name? Frack.
Yeah, again.
He's Frick's brother, Frack.
Again, one more reason.
Hey, man, you want to open that can of worms, right? Right?
Yeah. The shenanigans.
Come on, man.
The description on demand can of worms looks suspiciously similar to the smart ass can of worms, and you have to be very careful which one you open. I think that
Bakery McBaker face. Yes,
that's that shit. That shit's got to go. So now the part of it is, if this is your home group and somebody's being a bit of a hoser and they're like, oh, Bakery McBaker face, okay, that's fucking funny, whatever.
Thorn, what the?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
LG Thorn.
So Sean, here's the deal.
Yeah,
I think when I'm gaming with my home group, I know these folks very well. If I game with people at a con or online that I do not know very well, and I want to ask the question, I have learned, and what I try to do in my tone and approach is, hey, does someone have the name of a baker? I can't think of a name right now. Could someone give me a name of the baker? It's important. And then you go, oh, okay, Sean. If he says Baker McBaker face, go, ha, 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 very funny. Anyone got a better name, like a real name? right? And if you throw it out...
Baker McRaker face?
No. I'm going to hang up. I swear to God, I'm hanging up on you.
See how fun it would be to play with me as a player, Brett, for descriptions on demand?
Yeah, this. Yeah.
It's like a game of ad libs, man. Adverb? Do you need an adverb?
It's Mad
Noun?
Libs. Mad Libs, you mean, yes. But no.
Yes, Mad Libs.
So, anyway, I've started to try to ask it to the entire table. When I source the table, I'm not trying to ask just one person. I have found that sometimes you'll get in a groove and you ask one person and, they're going really well. You move to the next person, and you hit someone who just locks up. And maybe that person was really good at this before, insofar as they've always had a good idea or something that they've wanted to do, and they just don't know. And you can say, you know what, it's no big deal. How about we do this instead? I think it's amount of pressure. And by using it as a demand, voicing it as a demand, as the game master, I think is where some of the pressure comes from. And some people, quite frankly, aren't comfortable with much limelight, spotlight anyway. I have played with many people over the years. Whose turn is it? It's, Razlax the Mighty. Razlax the Mighty is played by Fred, and that's what Fred likes to do. What does that mean? Fred rolls dice. He hits monsters. He does his feats. He thinks tactically. He drinks Mountain Dew. Always brings plenty of chips. Stand-up dude. Good player. He's not a showman. He's not a bard. He's not going to be anything but Razlax the Warrior. That's his guy. Okay, that's fine. And you can't punish those folks, right? By, putting them on the spot. Even if you're like, well, there's no experience points in it. I just want people to feel part of it. That person does not care. That's not of interest to them. I think those folks would be better suited, in my opinion, and Sean, you tell me what you think here, in a session 0, where you said, hey, I was thinking about running a D&D game in Greyhawk. Modifius is 2D20 Conan for something different, fantasy-wise. Or I was thinking about pulling out an old D6 Star Wars for the next campaign. What do you guys think? I think those are the opportunities for folks like Fred, who like to play Razlax the Mighty, to make their opinions, and they can speak out about what the script, they start to say what they like to describe, right? You know what? Sci-fi game sounds like fun. I'd like to play Star Wars. Cool. He will play whatever he likes to play in Star Wars, demanding from him later on, hey, Fred, which planet are we starting on? It's not Fred's deal. He wants you to tell him, where are we starting? Or someone else in the group says where they're starting. Fred probably doesn't give a fuck. But that level
I don't like Fred's attitude.
Yeah, well, Fred doesn't like you as a game master, which is why he's at my table now. So, Sean, does that make sense to you, what I'm laying down here? Does that whole kind of, instead of like demanding it from one person, sourcing the table as a whole, asking different people, so if you have people who like it, they can engage in that way?
It does, but my fear would be that somebody that doesn't like it
At
for
all?
the whole table. Yeah, like, great.
So who's in charge?
Oh yeah, all right. So it's
I've heard that
the Brett and Lenny game. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you and I have heard that argument, right? You're like, who's in charge then?
Well,
Right? I thought the game master was running the game.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
sure. Uh-huh.
I've heard that argument.
Yeah.
I think this might be very well, if you're going to play a game where this is built in, Fate or something like that, then people know, hey, this is what I'm signing up for. That's what it's going to be.
Well, that's fair.
And if it's a session 0 about a D&D game or a Star Wars game, or a game that this isn't built in mechanically, I think that's a session 0 thing that we as game masters, or even players, get to say, hey, I like to do this. I like to source the table in this way. Is that okay with you guys? Again, I'm lucky. I've been with my group for well over 20 years. I know what these folks like and don't like in most cases. Works fine 99% of the time. Every once in a while, I want to strangle them. But hey, that's because I've known these guys for over 20 years. And every once in a while, we all want to strangle each other. But if I've just met a group, I think this might be one of those parts, questions we ask. And as a player, if the DM isn't asking you that, you can raise your hand and say, hey, I kind of like doing that. Is that something you guys all like or no? If nothing else, if that is the thing you really, really enjoy, and you'll feel unfulfilled at the table if you're never allowed to do that, And I think you have to take a hard look at that, because I have talked to folks over the years at cons and stuff who really enjoy the hell out of it. They like being able to say, oh, I know that baker. He grew up down the street from me. We've known each other since high school. They love adding that extra bit and piece to it. Some game masters and some groups, as you say, Sean, may despise that, or may say, well, that's not in your character backstory. You can't do that. I don't know. Everybody plays a little bit different. But if you're with a new group, you're having a session 0 conversation, that might be a piece. Or if it doesn't come up and you do interject, or the game master does ask, be prepared to have it fall flat, where the group is like, we don't necessarily like doing that, or whatever, and don't take it personally. It's just not the thing the group likes. Move on. Or the player tries to interject, the game master says, I don't really want to do that, blah, blah, blah. It's not, no one's trying to wreck your fun. You just are trying to have a type of fun at this table with this group of players that may not all grok or totally enjoy that thing you're trying to do. So I guess I can see cool things about it, but I can definitely see why it's important to not use it as a honest-to-God demand. You get someone like Roger Bracelet who's not fond of it, my buddy JR who doesn't like it. I've known other people. I tried this during a vampire game the first time I was running with my friend Tabby, and she was like, no. I was not. It just kind of ground to a halt. After a while, after literally a year of real-time gaming, she's like, oh, I got an idea. She warmed up to it and changed her mind.
What?
No one minded that other people were doing it. It just wasn't something she was comfortable with. She did not feel
creative.
creative.
Change your mind. You can't start playing a particular way, and then you get, as a game master, acclimated to your players and what they like and what they don't like, and then have a player change all that crap. No,
not allowed.
Well,
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the game master showing up to a D&D group and trying to make them play Mothership. What kind of fucker does that?
Or it's like, hey, I'm going to take you through Curse of Strahd, and then all of a sudden, hey, it's Rise of the Rune, or it's Rifts. We're going to go through Rifts.
Surprise. Bait and switch, bitches. Here we go.
I created all your characters in Rifts so that now you can cross over into different worlds like we planned.
Mega damage. What? I don't understand.
I don't know.
But I do think that it is kind of, it's not a fad. I don't think fad is too strong. It's too condescending and negative. I think the desire to source the table, it comes from a number of different things. Who has narrative control? We've talked about that many times in the past. And some of it, for me, is when I'm trying to source the table, I want involvement from the players. I personally do not feel comfortable asking the players to give me critical plot information of something that if I'm already running, like if I'm running this thing and I know the ending of the story, I kind of know who the bad guy is, how it might end up, what the big plan is at the end. When I say ending, oh, this is what's going down, we're heading in that direction. I don't mind some of the players jumping in, giving certain bits and pieces, but I am not a fan of, oh, now I have to rethink everything because I asked you a question and you took it way somewhere different than I wanted it to go. And which is where I think no is still a powerful tool. Bodie McBoatface is a bad name. The answer is no.
But what if that's his real name?
No.
You don't know a Bodie McBoatface?
I know a boat named Bodie McBoatface, but I do not know a man named Bodie McBoatface. But,
Well, that's the thing, and you kind of answered the question I was going to bring up for now, most of the topic that we're talking about is for games that don't have it baked in.
Yeah,
okay?
We're talking about something that like D&D, the big gorilla in the room, right?
I know Harrigan mentions there's games that have it baked right in, which is great, and then the expectations are level across the table, right?
Yeah, it's in the game, man.
You got to play this. If we're going to play Kingdom, you guys are going to have to do stuff and suggest things and come up with these ideas. If you play D&D and you take this approach, which is a little different than how a lot of people grew up, not all.
Well, it's also not in the rules.
Right. The game session, rule 0.
Yeah.
Brr, when I say goes. That's why Brett and I game master. That's the rule 0, baby.
It's the only thing I get to control in my whole life. Don't take that from me.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm gonna rule 0 everything. But why would you do that as a game master in a game that it doesn't facilitate?
It doesn't have a mechanic to it.
And it doesn't have a mechanic, yeah. And you mentioned you want player interaction. So the root cause is not. So the cause and effect thing, if you were to look at it as, well, I want to make sure my players are engaged, and I want them to kind of get sucked into things, and that is one method of doing it. Then you also have to go, well, if you did it a different way, or you're running a game and it's not that way, and that's why you're trying to implement it, then what's the problem?
Yeah, so for me, some of it is as simple as I literally cannot always come up with names. And just saying the blacksmith, the rope maker is boring. And when I'm running like my Pathfinder game for my home group, they wanted to use Pathfinder and Avalon, which is fine. I've done it before. And it's their neighborhood. When we talked about it, I said, look, in order for me to help make this be your neighborhood so that you guys understand it and you know all the bits and pieces, do you guys mind if I ask you, give me some names? They're like, oh, yeah, sure, we can help you out. Cool, thanks. Like, hey, what about this person, this person? I like the name of these kind of people, which are key folks who I think you're going to talk to. Oh, somebody who sells leather goods, the innkeeper, the this. Cool, thanks, guys, move on. I had some names I gave them, and I'm like, hey, I could really use some help to fill out the rest of it. And when I come along, it's a big goddamn city with lots of different NPCs. So we'll introduce someone, and Zabe will look at me and say, are they from the neighborhood? Yes. How do I know them, Brett? And I'll say, well, he's a priest of Odin. I'm like, well, he's been to a couple of your services, is blah, blah, blah. Come up with something off the top of my head. Lenny or Nick, on the other hand, if I said, hey, Nick, you meet this person. He'd say, is he from the neighborhood? Yes. Do I know him from the church? Nick asked the question in the opposite direction, right? He asked me leading questions to get me he asked more game master questions back to me. Right? Instead of asking me to tell him all the detail behind it, what Nick does is he says, do I know him from the church? Is he a regular parishioner? Do his parents go? Okay, cool, good. I got a pretty good idea who he is. And that's fine. He helps to build the NPC by asking questions back to me. The results are effectively very, very similar in that they both have asked me, do I know him? Because we're trying to build a neighborhood together of people we may or may not know. Is it conspicuous that somebody who isn't from the neighborhood is at the church today? So on and so forth. The way they're asking it is different, and that's fine. That's just two different ways to get at a similar thing. Zabe is more comfortable with me giving him the details, asking certain questions and having me answer them, where Nick wants to turn it around and say, this is how I think it works. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong or if it doesn't fit. Right. So does that make sense, Sean?
Yes.
Yes. Did you follow that at all? Or
yeah, no, it does make sense. But I also, okay, so aside from, okay, I'm going to implement this and then I'm going to do it. And then somebody's like, I really don't like this. Mm-hmm. Side effects.
Of people not liking it?
Well, not necessarily people not liking it, but trying it and doing it. So what are the adverse effects that could come from it other than your players not jiving with it? And I would say it gets into Brett, he's presenting Sir Charles the Baker, not the baker. So since it's Sir Charles the Baker, obviously that person's important. Or, hey, this person needs a name or whatever. Like, there's this weird latching onto things with certain connotations in RPGs. Like, if it's not, hey, why are you asking this person's name? Well, I want to know. Like, it's probably important. No, it's not. Like, you're going down the wrong rabbit hole. Right?
Yeah, so if basically if the game master names a thing, there can be more importance sometimes.
Right.
Versus if the player names a thing.
Well, maybe it could be either or.
Yep.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? It's like in Dungeon World, everybody is supposed to name everything, right? Like it's this immersive thing and all that's good. But, sometimes a person walking down the street is just a person walking down the street.
Yeah, I mean, if you're outside the free city of Greyhawk traveling to, the Duchy of Jeff, and you come across some dwarves in a cart, and they simply have the DM has them giving you some data, understanding that they are Reorcs and Preorcs, the Dwarven brothers from blah, blah, blah. Does that matter?
Right.
Right?
So I think sometimes it's like a priority thing, right? So if you write down an adventure, or Brett's planning his next session, and he fleshes it all out, and he presents the party with X or Y, whether it's a person, place, or whatever, person, place, or thing. And if you're bringing it up, some people will be like, "Oh, Brett is bringing this up. It must be important. It must play a role in all this."
I think where you're going is that there's a certain amount of creative juice, energy that people want to throw at stuff, and like, okay, so we spent all this time talking about the two dwarves who are apparently bakers that come from the Cron Hills that are 15th generation, blah blah blah. And we never see them again. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, nobody goes in to that much effort to creating things that don't mean something.
Nope.
Right? That would be my.
You mean like those player characters who write 10 pages of backstory just to say their parents were killed by orcs?
I feel bad whenever I hear stories like that, because Crystal wrote a 3-page, I think it was like 3-page Google Doc on her person's background from Masks of Nyarlathotep. Obviously, very nice.
Too much.
Like
way too much.
Hey, I'm in this, and
so I think
Sean, did you read? Like, I would ask her like questions, like, "Hey, you're in New York. Your parents probably have a place there." She's like, "Did you even read my background, Sean?"
Oh,
like, because it would be in there. Like, I have a place in New York. Yeah, I'm like, oh god,
fuck no. So I think
every session she would bring it up, and she's like, "You still haven't read it? It's session 4.
You dick."
I'm like, sorry.
So I think what you're saying is that it can be overused. Can be the piece here, right? Is that sometimes there's a time and a place, or it can be fun to add some color. But if you name everything all the time, and how deep do you go all the time, right? If it's in a neighborhood, like we're adventuring in this neighborhood in Avalon, and knowing these shopkeepers is critical because we know these people. They're friends of ours, or they're enemies of ours, or whatever the case is. That's important. But if you go too crazy and all the dogs and all the cats or whatever, yeah, you can overuse almost any tool, right? If all you have is a hammer and everything starts to look like a nail, this isn't the be-all and end-all of involving your players and getting them to contribute to the setting, right? It's not the only way to do it. And I think you are right, Sean, that there can be such... If we're spending time doing this thing, it damn well better be important. I can see that being a concern or some blowback. And some people may say, oh, I've never experienced that. But I have. I've seen that happen. Where people are like, look, we're spending all this time talking to this bartender, and there's clearly nothing to gain out of it. You're wasting our time, so-and-so. Let's go. Any other problems you can see? Is that what you were getting at, Sean, or am I totally misreading you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's exactly what I was getting at was, if you're having everything kind of sourced, right? Mm-hmm. Crowdsourced, then it's, I don't know.
And sometimes
sometimes little is better. It doesn't and I should talk. Like Hobbs and Harrigan are probably laughing their ass off because when I run Delta Green, they go to a storage shed, and I describe the storage shed, and they go in, and it's like, okay, there's a person, blah, 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 and there's this desk, and then behind the desk, there's a table, and there's a person sitting in a chair, and they're playing, like they're looking at their TV, and they got something in their hand, they're flipping it and clicking it, and it looks like some kind of video game console. It looks like NBA jams on the TV, and they're like, what?
Do I care? Stop.
Well, they're just like, I know Hobbs, he's like, too much, man. Like, what are you doing? So, but I want to get into. I mean, I don't want to necessarily get into it, but I want to make sure. Sometimes what I get into, and this may be off on a tangent, is there's well, you didn't say that, or you didn't tell me that, or I didn't know that was there, or whatever. And so sometimes when I get into those like robust descriptions, it's to make sure that they understand kind of the environment that they can play in.
Well, the other piece that I think can be, excuse me, a negative for description on demand, apart from the term demand, which I still don't find too keen, is if you're not, you as a player are not, I've read one Dresden book, and I read it over 10 years ago. So if I'm going to play Dresden with you, you say, hey, Brett, what's the name of this or that? I have no clue. Oh, you said you read the book. Dude, I told you I read it 10 years ago. I am not a good person to get the feel of this. I've never played Call of Cthulhu before. Never played Delta Green before. And then you try to get me to help you source a feeling or source something like this. I have no idea. You know, I feel like I'm out of my depth already a little bit here because I don't know the setting very well. Right?
Yeah.
In Star Wars games, I'm not a good person to pick names. I don't know what a Star Wars sounding name is. I always lock up.
I like Brett. You could have used Brett.
I probably could have, but I just locked.
Could have called him Treb.
Could have. Yeah, I could have. But
Treb's
I lock
good.
up on that stuff. You know, it just doesn't. If someone were to say, "Hey, you see someone behind the bar? Is he? What kind of Star Wars character is he? What planet is he from?" I got nothing. This is not a Twi'lek, and a Wookiee. An Ewok? Sure, he's an Ewok. A Jawa, and I'm done. I'm out. I got nothing. Right.
Well, that's a good point too, Brett, because you're in a world that's not. I mean, you're not.
If you're not
freaking Wayne Lumrunner Humfleet, so
yeah, I mean, if you're playing the Forgotten Realms for the first time, and says, "Well,
Right.
you're here and there," and you're like, "So, what relationship do you have to the Lord of Cormyr?" You're like, "Is Cormyr is that the town?
Yeah, right.
Or is that a city? Or what's a Cormyr?" Fuck. And you feel like a boob because you're like, "Oh my God, how come I don't know this stuff?" You know, and that's again a piece where I think if you're being asked to do stuff, if the person's not familiar with what's going on, they're there to play, they're eager, they want to try doing something different with you, like, wow, I've never played Warhammer before, let's see how this goes. And you say, so is this person, you know, do you think they're, well, there's an elf behind the bar. And we're, oh, there's no elves in the Reich, blah, 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 blah. Well, how the fuck do I know? I just got here. You know, I just sat down to play. I don't know that. You told me they're elves, dwarves, and halflings. I thought being an elf would be cool. I'm sorry. You know, and people can feel foolish. And I think that the other part of the on-demand component is that when you see if it is working, it's going well, and you turn to that one person and they lock up. And they're like, I don't know. I'm just not comfortable. They don't like it. I said, that's cool. Anybody else have an idea? Cool. How about that? That sounds great.
Not me, man. I'd be sitting there like this.
You stare at them. Yeah. That's when you pull out the 45, lay it on the table, cock the
Audience
hammer.
participation, people. Come on. Come on. Work with me, people.
That's when you take the hot lamp, you just turn it on them and make everyone stand up and stare down at them as they sit. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. It's Brett's turn to come up with the name of the tavern. Whenever you're ready, Brett.
Yeah, we all like to play, except for
Yeah.
Brett, who can't name a fucking tavern. What's wrong with that guy?
It's a tavern, Brett. There's no like ethnicity or weird spelling to it.
How hard is this?
Come on.
No, but seriously, though, I think some people just flat don't like that. That pressure can be a lot. Some people don't like the pressure because they don't like speaking in front of people. They don't like being put on the spot. Some people, you talked about one of your friends does investigations and stuff kind of for a living. Doesn't want
Jeff
to.
does.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that Jeff was like, look, I'd rather kill stuff and take their loot because it's just more relaxing to me than some of this other stuff, right? It depends what you do for a living. Sometimes people are like, look, I don't want to be in charge today. I'm in charge all day. Somebody else run the group right now. I don't want a game master or whatever the case is. And that's another component is some people don't. Your game master, who's now behind the screen, or excuse me, in front of the screen, sometimes she's like, look, I don't want to game master, so please don't ask me to do game mastery type stuff. Don't give me the author type authority because I really don't want it. I don't want to do that right now. I just want to sit back, play a supporting character in this D&D game, and whatever the group wants to do, I'll be more than happy to go with them. My main driving force is support the group, right? That's my thing. That's what I'm here for. And that's all he wants to do.
We need to take this stuff every time we ask a question to the audience, we need to put it in a survey, like a book, and go, here, you have to ask all, everybody sits down and you complete this
every session
questionnaire.
Zero is a huge.
Every session zero
is
an
a monster.
SAT. No, it's a standardized test.
Yeah.
Little dots, you fill them in, but they all have these questions. So when you're done, you're like, hey, I think I know. Hey, I think I know.
Which is where Sean gets to. You can't change your mind. This is it. Final answer? Good, because that's all. Yeah.
I mean, hey, you answered all these questions.
We've talked about that with session zero before too, where that's not a guarantee of the perfect game, right? And we will throw this out, and I've heard this from other podcasts. That's a good session zero thing. That's, for fuck's sake, there's a billion things we should quote unquote be asking people all the time. But sometimes you're going to try something. Like, hey, I like that description on demand, or I want to source the table more. Man, I think that'd be fun. I think my group would really get it. And you try it, and it just lands like a rock. You're like, wow, nobody likes that. All right, I'll stop doing it. Or I'll bring it back up and say, hey, I thought this would be kind of cool, guys. Do you mind? Do you want to try it? Yeah, sure, I guess. I just don't want to do the game master job. And how come you can't create? Ha, ha, ha. Sometimes I have a hard time kind of putting names. Can you guys help me at least with names? Yeah, sure, we can do that. Bodie McBoatface, you're out. Okay, you. What's his name? You know? But I mean, you're not going to get every pre-notion set up, every bumper boundary for this type of thing. But if it's built into the game system, much less problem, because you go, hey, look, see these rules? This is what we're using, and it's right fucking here. But if you're adding this in to a system that doesn't have a mechanic for it or something, it is worth saying, hey, I like to do this. I want to reach out and ask, Roger, could you give me a name of the baker? Could you give me a name of the pilot? Could you do this? Or if you don't want to put someone on the spot, just say, I'm stuck for, does anyone have, can anyone give me? And it's out to the whole group, and not one person is stuck. So sometimes that helps. Roger, I don't know if we hit that all, man, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Sean, you got any more you want to throw on this?
No, I don't want to. No. Do you do it, and how much, I think is the question.
Yeah, do you do it, and do you use this type of table sourcing with systems that don't require it, or it's not built into them? Do you do this as an add-on? If you do it successfully, how do you do it? And if it's fallen, or you've had bad instances of it, share, because so we can all learn from the good and the bad. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Shall we?
We shall. Let's get into die roll.
Cool.
Die roll 2d4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to share with you. All right, first one. Wizards of the Coast to release DM screen wilderness kit. So if you're playing 5e and you need another Dungeon Master screen, I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to buy all the DM screens that they release for 5e.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tape them all together.
Just make a wall.
And I don't know if I'll tape them like end to end.
No, one on top of the other.
One on top?
Yeah.
All three, what is it, three or it's a four panel
yeah.
usually. Yeah. So 4 panel, let's see how high I can get it.
You can do it old school. This was the thing that Gary and the guys used to do, is they would actually, their stories where Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson would actually play, their body would be completely hidden.
Oh yeah, I remember Gary doing it behind the filing cabinet or whatever. Yeah,
we need to bring that back. Bring it back behind Game Master screen. You lead the charge. I'll be right behind you.
Just like, okay, give me a roll. Okay,
what?
Right.
What?
Right. Hold on a second. Okay, give me a roll, Brett. Brett, what'd you roll?
I got a 5.
You roll a 5. Hold on a second. All right, Brett, I think, let's see. Hold on a second.
I think you got to use miniatures at the same time so you can't see the fucking table.
Okay, you missed.
All things told, though, the Game Master screen, it looks cool. I'd be interested to see what's on the inside of it. And I like a good wilderness adventure.
It does come with more than just the GM screen. It comes with erasable.
Yeah, 5 dry erase sheets, 27 cards, keeping track conditions, initiative, environmental effects, all that good stuff. So, neat.
Yeah. Hey, for your favorite hex crawl.
Yeah.
Next one, X-Crawl Classics. Beta test rules are going to be out in time for Bride of Cyclops Con.
Okay.
Bride of Cyclops Con. So if you're not familiar with X-Crawl, why? And if you aren't, you should be. It's a competitive
tournament style play.
Yeah, tournament style play. And I think it's DCC rules.
I think
Classics. It might be. Yeah. And if you don't know what Bride of Cyclops Con is, well, that's the next one. Bride of Cyclops Con, which is October 16th to the 18th online, which is by Goodman Games. So a lot of Mutant Crawl Classics and DCC. And if you're a DCC fan, you probably already know this. Next one. Twitter user Megan Lynn FTW. I'll have it spelled out and I'll link in the die roll. But she posted a thread about Blades in the Dark, which I found pretty intriguing. Apparently, she does this every once in a while for a game that she's playing. So it's just this long thread. If you get Thread Reader app, it puts it all on one page. I'll have a link to the Thread Reader app that brought it all together that talks about Blades in the Dark, which I thought was kind of interesting. I still like. I do want to play that game. I don't. Scum and Villainy, man. That's what I have, and I'd like to run that. But I'd like those games. I like to play in first, that somebody knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, get the feel of it.
Yeah, and then go, oh, that makes so much more sense. And then I can read it and go, oh, okay. It's the way I learn, people. Last one coming September 7th, 2020. Star System, epic space fantasy role-playing supplements by Adamant Entertainment. Apparently, former West End Games editors that are involved in this. So they say if you like West End Star Wars, then some of the folks that worked on that game are involved in this, including our very own friend and supporter, Wayne Lumrunner Humfleet, also known as Mr. Star Wars in some circles. Mm-hmm. So if you follow Lumrunner, I asked them, like, okay, great, man. Where do people go for this thing? Is there a Kickstarter? Is there a store? Is there a website?
Drive-through.
It's coming on drive-through. There is no drive-through presence.
Yeah, not yet. So this is the prequel to the coming attraction, right? So you heard it here first, type of thing. It's coming September 7th. We're tight with Wayne. He'll give us links. We'll share. Yeah. We'll share. Most definitely. This could be cool though. This is neat.
Hey, and they do have a website.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, put it up on your website. Just saying. Just saying.
There you go.
Put it there. Just a hint. I don't know. I'm not a marketing guy, but just saying.
But I play one on TV. Okay.
I'll put one. Yeah, play one. I play one in a role-playing game. Otherwise, that is it for this episode of Gaming BS, because we can't stream worth a shit, and it's always going to have a problem because if the minute we do it right, we have to call it a different show.
Exactly. All right.
What are we talking about next week,
We're
Brett,
talking
man?
about how easy wins have value. We're going to chat through that, so we'll get the notes.
Easy wins have value.
Yes.
Yeah. Not wins as in...
No. W-I-N.
Wins as in...
We won. Yes.
I'm winning. Ba, ba, ba. I'm winning. Ba, ba, ba.
Oh, this pain makes you less tolerable.
I'm winning. Everybody that's tuned in to Twitch tonight, thank you so much for being patient and not hearing Brett have most of the episode at full volume until I figured out things. I'm telling you, next week, Brett, that's the week.
That's the week?
It's the week.
We're due. You're due.
I'm due, man. Dude, every pitcher can hit it once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have.
They've got to,
You're gonna have a perfect game. It's coming. You're due.
A 90 batting average will hit at least.
Yeah, you're due.
1/10 of the time a season or whatever that is.
Agreed.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on Discord. Everybody that watches this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and hit like. Otherwise, I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.